This is Sakura Chiyo, a high school student who plans to confess her feelings to her crush, Nozaki Umeteru. When Sakura tries to confess her feelings, she accidentally says she is his fan, and Nozaki responds by giving her his autograph. So, she tells Nozaki that she wishes to be with him forever, and he invites her to his apartment. As soon as they arrive at the apartment, Nozaki asks Sakura to begin working on his beta drawings. After 4 hours of work, she realizes he is a manga artist. When Sakura is walking back home, she discovers that Nozaki is the shoujo manga artist Sakiko Yamino, whose work appears in the popular magazine Monthly Girls Romance. Following that, they begin to consider Nozaki's upcoming romance stories. Sakura imagines a traditional romance in which a boy and a girl ride a bicycle together, but Nozaki informs her that riding a bike for both is illegal. Then he comes up with some ideas, all of which are completely ridiculous. So the next day, Nozaki invites her to come home with him and ride his bike. Sakura is excited and thinks that they will have a romantic moment while riding a bike. Unfortunately, it turns out to be a four-wheel bike, and everyone thinks they are a strange couple. When they arrive, Nozaki tries to draw from his current experience, which she finds ridiculous. As a result, he develops a scenario in which his main characters walk home together. While they are busy working, Sakura suddenly questions Nozaki about why he draws manga. He claims it was just a hobby at first, but he's given a lot of love advice to girls. He asks Sakura if she has had a love experience, so she describes it to him, but he thinks it's lame. When Sakura arrives at school, she notices Nozaki carrying a cat, and she begins to imagine herself at the entrance ceremony being carried by him. So she plans to express her feelings to Nozaki again, but she still claims to be a fan, so she receives his second autograph. Nozaki introduces Sakura to his new assistant, Makoto Mikashiba, whom she thinks is a flirtatious but easily embarrassed man. Mikurin, his nickname, tells her that he doesn't like being asked questions before they begin working. So Sakura gets to work on her beta drawing while Mikurin tries to get her attention. Not long after, Nozaki informs Sakura that he is waiting for her to request his assistance. Later, they play memory sketch together, and Sakura notices that Mikurin's sketch is a failed drawing. Nozaki tells her that his specialty is adding background decorations to beta work, such as flowers, which impresses her. When Sakura asks how Nozaki and Mikurin became friends, he says he watched his character's idea, and she discovers Mikurin is Nozaki's secret model for the heroine of his manga, Mamiko. A few hours later, Nozaki tells Sakura that he wants to create a new character and asks if she knows anyone who could be used as a model for his manga. So she introduces her popular classmate, Yuzuki Seo, who has been chased by her teacher for being late. Nozaki discovers that Yuzuki is an oblivious girl who does very well at sports. When Yuzuki's teacher punishes her for being late and asks Nozaki to assist her, she tells him that she considers herself to be helpful and considerate of others. Suddenly, she asks Nozaki to assist her in carrying the notebooks and promises to return to him, but she never does. As Nozaki and Sakura walk down the school hall, Nozaki hears an angelic voice from the choir clubroom, where Yuzuki is practicing singing. She is also known as a nickname is Lorelei of the Glee Club, which surprises Nozaki. The next day, Mikurin introduces Sakura and Nozaki to the prince of the school, Kashima Yu. She is discovered to be a woman, but she is well known and admired by female students. Mikurin also tells them that the club's president, Masayuki Hori, comes to get her every day and physically beats her for being annoying. As a member of the art club, Kashima asks for Sakura's help to paint several pieces for their drama club. When Hori asks her to paint his mark, she realizes that he is the one in charge of Nozaki's background marks and beta sections. She then asks Hori if he also makes the underwear mark, and the two are surprised to learn that they're on Nozaki's team. Kashima, on the other hand, believes that his senpai enjoys dirty humor and asks if he wears one, to which he responds by hitting her again. Hori arrives at the apartment and asks Nozaki to assist him in writing a script for Kashima in exchange for Hori doing backgrounds for Nozaki's manga. However, as Nozaki writes the script, he cannot imagine Kashima as a generic prince, and the prince ends up being nothing more than a giant flirt. When it's finished, Nozaki casts Sakura as the female heroine and Hori as the prince, with Mikurin playing the maid. Nozaki is inspired by their performances and ends up writing a good script, but he soon realizes he based the female lead on Mikurin again. After they work late at night, Mikurin plans to sleep over at Nozaki's house to get advice on his dating simulation game. Mikurin initially uses dating simulations to talk to real girls, but he develops a crush on 2D girls. Nozaki tries the game and selects his own manga hero's name as his game nickname. When he plays the game, he randomly selects an answer, which Mikurin questions. Nozaki eventually tells him that his hero already has a boyfriend. So he changes his nickname to his name and believes he knows the answer, but he is mistaken and begins to doubt the girl's feelings. Soon after, they realize that Tomoda, the protagonist's best friend, is with them every step of the way. Because they are moved by Tomoda's kindness, Nozaki and Mikurin create a story about him. When Sakura comes to visit them, she discovers that they are unconscious and reads their story, which turns out to be a love story between two boys. Later, Mikurin is invited to a blind date by his friends, but he is too shy and doesn't know what to do on his first date. So Nozaki and Sakura try to assist him in practicing for the blind date, but they have no experience with blind dates. Finally, Kashima takes Mikurin's place in the event and successfully captures the attention of the girls, while his friends are envious of him. Following that, Nozaki receives a call and rushes to clean his apartment because his editor is on his way. Sakura tells Nozaki that he doesn't need to hurry because he isn't his girlfriend, but Nozaki values him more than a girlfriend. When Nozaki introduces Sakura to his editor, Mayumi Ken, she notices that Ken is cold to him, leading her to believe that Ken dislikes Nozaki. However, Nozaki compares him to his previous editor, Mitsuya Meino, whom he despises because he always claimed Nozaki's ideas as his own. Nozaki also shows Sakura Meino's manga, in which Tanuki appears in every scene, which she finds disturbing. When Sakura and Nozaki walk back home together, they run into Nozaki's neighbor and Meino's current manga editor, Yukari Miyako, on the street. Then Miyako invites them to her apartment, where she shows Meino's editor's blog, on which he is quite narcissistic and incompetent. After reviewing Nozaki's draft, Ken contacts Nozaki to criticize Mamiko's story, in which he discovers his character is quite complicated with her feelings. Nozaki informs Sakura that he will play Mamiko today in order to better understand her character. So, first, he makes her and Yuzuki homemade lunches, which makes him happy to gain satisfaction as Mamiko. He then carts Kashima away from the girls in order to turn them into a rival. Unfortunately, it does not satisfy him in the same way that Mamiko does, so he dumps her. As a result, Nozaki realizes Mamiko spends too much time thinking about love, and he tells Ken that Mamiko should spend more time studying. The next day, Nozaki meets his junior friend, Hirotaka Wakamatsu, at the basketball court. When they return home together, Waka says he has insomnia because Yuzuki always attacks him and the other basketball team at the basketball club. As a result, Nozaki invites Waka to his apartment to assist him with his manga work. When he accidentally plays Yuzuki's song, Waka immediately falls asleep. Waka requests Nozaki's song during breakfast, and Nozaki is afraid to tell him that it is Yuzuki's voice. Because he will assist him with his manga, Nozaki hands it over. Following that, based on Yuzuki and Waka's relationship, Nozaki creates a two-sided character in his manga. Since Yuzuki has attacked Waka and his team once more, he is unable to confront her and instead requests Nozaki's shoujo manga as reference material, expressing his rage at Yuzuki. So the next day, Yuzuki receives a love letter from her shoe locker, inviting her to the roof after school. Soon after, they finally meet, and Waka asks her to stop coming to the club, but Yuzuki doesn't take it seriously. So he pulls his gloves from his jacket, and Nozaki thinks he'll throw them to her, but he instead gives them to her. As a result, Nozaki advises him to stop reading shoujo manga. Later, Sakura receives an SOS message from Nozaki, prompting her to rush to his apartment. When she arrives, she notices Nozaki has a fever. Soon after, Waka and Hori arrive at his apartment. Because Nozaki's deadline is tomorrow but he needs to rest, the three work together to help Nozaki meet his deadline. They also discover that Waka is an expert at applying screen tones. However, they mismatch the screen tone, so Nozaki asks for a deadline extension. When Sakura passes Nozaki's class, she approaches him and inquires about his leisure activities. Because Nozaki's free time is boring, she invites him to do something fun with her, and he accepts. However, they spend the time watching a movie for background references, eating at a cafe for story ideas, and shopping for a sailor's uniform. They happen to meet Mikurin while looking at Baishoujo figurines in a figurine store, which surprises him. Mikurin tells them that figurines aren't their thing, but Nozaki tells him that he has a sexy figure with no clothes, which turns out to be an artist's model. Because he feels uncomfortable with them, Mikurin kicks them out of the shop. Sakura realizes on the way home that she didn't go to Nozaki's today, which makes her feel lonely. Suddenly, Nozaki invites her to his apartment, which surprises her because she believes he feels the same way she does. Unfortunately, Nozaki asks her to eat his extra cooking and wear the sailor outfit. The following day, Mikurin agrees to be a model for the art club, but he has no idea how to pose. He learns how to do an S-curve model, but it fails. Sakura and the other members of the art club help him direct his style and expression. When it's finished, one of the art club members approaches him and asks him to be a model again. Because of Mikurin's carelessness, he promises to be a naked model, which he later regrets. When Nozaki notices Mikurin's depression, he approaches him and tells him that he should invite him over when he's doing a naked model. When Hori is chasing Kashima, he throws out his bag and hits her in the head. She discovers Nozaki's manga in his bag, complete with detailed notes. After purchasing and reading Nozaki's manga, Kashima becomes convinced that Hori secretly wishes to be a girl. Mikurin approaches Kashima, and they discuss the manga's contents. As a result, Kashima intends to help him by nominating him for the princess role and lending him all of her feminine clothing. Later, Hori encourages Nozaki to practice drawing backgrounds because he believes Nozaki's skills are lacking. When he first started practicing, Nozaki would always put boxes under his characters to compensate for his lack of artistic perspective, which Hiro disliked. Nozaki approaches Sakura and asks how she draws the background, and she replies that she draws from what she sees or from photographs. So Nozaki requests that Hori photograph Sakura and him, but Sakura is too short to be Mamiko. When Nozaki switches with Hori, he notices something strange about them and realizes they need boxes. During a meeting with the drama club, Hori falls asleep and passes out due to exhaustion from drawing for Nozaki all night, so Kashima carries him like a horse to the nurse's room while wearing a bull mask. Hori is inspired when Kashima takes off his mask, so Hori agrees to draw all the backgrounds while requesting Nozaki to write a play about a prince who transforms into a bull. When it rains after school, Sakura and Nozaki forget to bring their umbrella. Nozaki begins to wonder why people don't use their jackets as umbrellas. So he tries to put his jacket into his head, which she finds ridiculous. When Sakura and Nozaki are ready to run together, they return to school because his jacket absorbs a lot of water. Because the rain isn't stopping, Nozaki tries to come up with some scenarios for his manga. Yuzuki suddenly throws her umbrella at Sakura and flees. As a result, Sakura and Nozaki share the umbrella as they walk back home. Nozaki suddenly recalls one of his manga scenes, but Sakura is drenched as a result of his inattention. Sakura wishes they would never arrive at Nozaki's apartment and stay a little longer, and Nozaki feels the same way because he just remembered putting her laundry outside. The following morning, Nozaki gives Sakura his rainy scenario, to which she only discovers Yuzuki's moment is being added. Later, the two watch Miyako deal with her editor Meino's absurd suggestions. Miyako has had enough of dealing with Meino, and Nozaki forces her to decline Meino's request for an inappropriate title. So Miyako contacts Meino right away, but he blames her because the majority of Miyako's manga stories are written in kanji. Miyako must eventually apologize to Meino for using simple words. As a result, she quickly changes his appearance by dressing him in a tanuki costume. Surprisingly, Meino likes the new character, and Sakura adores him as well. Seeing Sakura's enthusiasm for tanuki, Nozaki attempts to draw his character dressed in a tanuki costume, but she tells him to treat his character better. Ken suggests Nozaki write a story for his secondary characters, which are modeled by Waka and Yuzuki. He can't imagine them going on a date, so he asks Waka to accept a movie date with Yuzuki. Unfortunately, the movie ends with Waka being surprised by Yuzuki, who sympathizes with the villain. As they have lunch together, Yuzuki is excited to discuss the film's plot over lunch, which makes him scold her. She is offended by his words and decides to invite his friends to the amusement park, which bothers Waka, who instead invites her to come with him. The next day, Nozaki and Sakura run into Kashima, who is sitting alone in the corridor. Hori suggests doing a musical for their next play, but she is unable to sing. As a result, they bring her to meet Yuzuki, and she asks Kashima to try singing first. When she starts singing, they discover she has a terrible voice. Once Hori arrives at Nozaki's apartment, he informs them that they will begin practicing for the musical play tomorrow. Nozaki requests Hori's permission to rehearse the play, but their behavior contradicts the characters in the play, in which Hori plays the hero and Kashima plays the villain. As a result, the drama club requires a replacement actor, and Hori chooses Nozaki to play Rudolph because he believes he will understand the story better and feel more affection for the characters. Unfortunately, Nozaki has difficulty acting and creating new scenarios. He suddenly realizes that he is still affected by his school uniform, so he changes his costume, but none of the costumes fit his body except for a bear costume. In the end, they bring Mikurin in to volunteer to play the role. Sakura unexpectedly inquires about Nozaki and Ken's working relationship. Nozaki tells her everything he knows about Ken's personal life, which he learned from Miyako. Nozaki also tells her about their first meeting, during which they kept their distance, and threatens him if he gets any closer to him. As Nozaki and Sakura complete the manga, Nozaki wishes to add more excitement to his work. Sakura remarks that she would prefer to see something that surprised or excited her in the story. When Sakura sees the outcome of Nozaki's drawing, she is disappointed because there is no result for the request she desired in the story. So Nozaki asks her what kind of thrilling thing she wants. Then she gives examples, such as receiving something unexpected or someone being forceful. When Sakura arrives at her class the next day, she is surprised to find Nozaki as her chair. He also gives her a flower as a surprise, but it turns out to be a prank. Next, he tries to surprise her by hiding curry beneath the bento rice, which is Sakura's favorite. She also realizes she is eating lunch with Nozaki. Nozaki meets Ken and Hans over the finished manga. Ken mentions that the idea of curry reminds him of gourmet manga, so the name culinary manga is born. Later, Hori, Waka, and Mikurin are caught in the rain and seek shelter at Nozaki's apartment. The three spend time together awkwardly, and neither knows if they are working on Nozaki's manga. Mikurin asks them what kind of girl they like, and Hori says a girl with pretty legs, and Waka says a girl with a pure heart, which irritates Mikurin because they don't look at the pictures. Soon after, Hori finds out that Nozaki is using their interaction as a reference for the story about the slumber party. Nozaki convinces them to gossip, but as their conversation becomes more interesting, he falls asleep. Sakura gives her last Valentine's chocolate to her friends the next morning. She can't give them to Nozaki because she can't get in touch with him. Meanwhile, Nozaki is excited to conduct his research using chocolate gifts as his manga reference material. He also wishes that Valentine's Day was 3 times a year, as the girls require 3 white days. Unfortunately, he doesn't require a white day, so the girls blacklist him on their Valentine's Day. Sakura asks Yuzuki if she has ever given Valentine's chocolate to someone, and she recalls that he met a boy and put him in the back of a truck. He was overjoyed until the truck moved, and she hadn't given him her chocolate until now. Then, Sakura will give Nozaki her chocolate filled with love, which she has kept to herself for the past 5 months. She accidentally bumps into Nozaki in the school hallway and drops her chocolate on the floor. He apologizes to Sakura, who accepts and reveals that she wishes for him to eat the chocolate. Nozaki thinks she's mad, so he picks up the fallen chocolate and eats it. After that, he wants to treat her as an apology, and she requests candy for White Day. Sakura and her friends attend a fireworks festival at night while dressed in yukata. It turns out that Nozaki and Waka are also attending the festival, and Nozaki has come to conduct some interviews for his manga reference material. Sakura becomes disoriented in the crowd and accidentally bumps into Nozaki. He looks at her yukata, which she knows is for his manga. When the fireworks show is about to begin, Nozaki invites Sakura upstairs to take photos for reference. Sakura is unable to climb the stairs because she is wearing a yukata, so he lifts her up as she recalls the first time she and Nozaki met, when he lifted her up and over their school gate on the first day of school. During the fireworks show, Sakura secretly confesses her love for Nozaki. Sakura believes he heard her confess, but he leans in and replies that he loves fireworks too. So Sakura laughs off his misleading response, knowing she is happy just staying by his side. That's a wrap. Thank you for watching.